Happy
Happy
Vesak
Vesak
Day!
Day!
Hello, welcome everyone. All of us at Ionk Singapore would like to wish our customer and viewer a happy Vesak Day. Today, we are privileged to have Honorable Chuan Guan share with us about Vesak Day, a major public holiday here in Singapore, so that we may better appreciate the significance of Vesak Day celebration. Honorable Chuan Guan currently teaches in various Buddhist societies. He conducts retreats and provides counseling services. Here is what he shared with us. We hope you will enjoy.
So Vesak is important for Buddhists as we commemorate the three things of the Buddha's life. The first being the birth of the Buddha, the second being his enlightenment, and the third being the final passing of the Buddha. So these three are celebrated together, but they didn't happen all together. Yeah. So Vesak, the Vesak period is more or less attributed to be around the time where the Buddha attained enlightenment. Yeah. His birth is significant to us because being born a human, he was able to overcome human shortcomings and human flaws. If he was born special to begin with, then what chance do we have? Yeah. But in a way, his birth was special because unlike other birth, his birth brought an end to suffering, not bring more suffering. Yeah. Then perhaps when we look at the core, which is his enlightenment, we usually think of Vesak as a celebration by Buddhists for Buddhists of Buddhists. Yeah. But in a way, Vesak, the celebration of the enlightenment of the Buddha, is not just about Buddhists. Not just about Buddhists. Why? Because not only Buddhists want to end suffering, isn't it? Yeah. No one wants suffering. Everyone wants to have peace, to have happiness, to be free of suffering. We can look at the Buddha's attainment of enlightenment as the conquering of suffering that pervades all humanity, and in fact, not just humanity, but all sentient beings. It is like the discovery of penicillin, discovery of a medical cure, and that medical cure is not restricted to only the family of that doctor or scientist, isn't it? Yeah, not just for that country, but all mankind. So 2,600 over years ago, when the Buddha attained enlightenment, it marked the first conquering of suffering. And the significance of it is that he didn't just stop there. He didn't just conquer suffering and then, okay, my job is done. See you guys around. But he went further and spent the next 45 years of his life teaching, guiding, counseling people, offering them not just solace, but solutions, telling them the truth and not just fancy words. His teaching since then has spread to different parts of the world, and until today, we are still grappling with this. Yeah, we are still grappling with suffering. Yeah, and now more than so, in the midst of COVID-19, I think it's the silver lining is it gets us to think about what is truly essential. So the word Dharma, you will see that sometimes there are two spelling, D-H-A-R-M-A and D-H-A-M-M-A. The two words are actually the same. It's just a different way of Romanized spelling, one for Pali, one for Sanskrit. The Sanskrit spelling is spelled with a R, the Pali spelling with an M. Granted, this is a Romanized script now. So, but the two are actually referring to the same thing. And the word Dharma has many meanings. In general, in Buddhism, we say it has three levels of meaning. The first is referring to all things, all phenomena. Yeah, basically anything and everything is part of this whole set. Yeah, that we call Dharma. Yeah, kind of like how we use the term things in general. Yeah, all things. Or the more atas phrase would be phenomena. Yeah, phenomena. The second meaning is referring to principles, structures that defines all these things. Yeah. So kind of like the principles behind all these things. Yeah. So the second layer of meaning is kind of like support. Yeah. So for things to exist, it must be supported by certain principles. Yeah. And the third level of meaning is among all these principles and structures, there's a group that give rise to wholesomeness, give rise to goodness. Yeah. And this part is what the Buddha taught. Yeah. And so his teaching is also known as Dharma. For he gave light to what can support and give rise to goodness and wholesomeness and purity. Yeah, so this is one of them. This is called a Yingqing. Yeah, Yingqing. So literally the guiding bell. Yeah. So the function of the instruments, we specially call them Dharma instruments and not musical instruments for a few reasons. One, each of these they are usually percussions. Yeah. So they can only play one note. Yeah. So it's not meant to create several notes as music. We do have intonations, but collectively we use them to bring everybody's attention to focus on the teachings. Yeah. So, for example, in traditional Chinese monastery, we start off very early in the morning. I would say rather early. The morning call is at 3:30 a.m. So it starts off with a duty monk who will go around the premise of the monastery with a wooden plank and a stick, or two wooden stick or two wooden stick or wooden pieces, and they will hit a certain sequence. Yeah. And in the mind, they will be doing a reflection that goes in sequence with this sound, and they'll go around. And you can imagine if you're in a forest, and at 3+, it's dead silent. And then at 3:30 sharp, you hear this echoing through the monastery, through the forest. Tong, 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 tong. And it repeats all the way until close to 4. And at 4, or close to 4, a second series would take over. Yeah, and this sequence would then rally all the monks who is staying in the whole monastery to rally in the main hall. Yeah, and the sequence would then take over all the way until the instruments are um, uh, are being used, and the whole morning prayer would start. And if you consider, right, if you have participated in any of those large scale mass choir performances, without audio system, you end up having waves of singing where they are not synchronized, right? So the drum is used to synchronize everybody. Yeah, so you notice that when we do chanting, they usually have the drum that is called a mu yu. Yeah, that, then let's say for example, they'll start like Namo 本师释迦牟尼佛南无 Yeah, and so with that, everybody is uniform. Yeah, and again in the early morning where it's deadpan silent, and you have this a very deep bass drum, boom, 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 yeah, and everybody is just quietened and calm down. There's also the bell, the large bell, small bell. All this serve that purpose. The thing is that the more the more Buddhist practice is when we do the offering, we reflect on how just as this incense can purify the air, may I, through the practice of the precepts and the meditation, yeah, through the practices, purify my body, speech, and mind. And the same goes for the other offerings. Yeah, like offering of light. Light signifies wisdom. Yeah, with light you can see things clearly, and this is a direct parallel to the core of the Buddhist teachings and practices, to be able to see things as they truly are. That is because we don't see things clearly, yeah, that we have the wrong perception. The wrong perception giving rise to wrong expectation, leading to our suffering. Yeah. So with the offering of light, we make the aspiration that to cultivate wisdom. Yeah. And again, this offering of light started off as a very functional practice, because back in the days you need, you don't have street lamps, you know. So, and many of the talks were given at night. Yeah. Why? Because daytime, in the Buddha's time, just as now, daytime lay people are busy. You are busy in the day. Yeah. So it's not a new thing that Dhamma talks were given at night. And so at night, when they go to the forest, they don't have the overhead projector camera and everything. So they would light candles for people to know where to go. And around the Buddha, it is said, I can't even if I was there, I can't remember already. So according to the tradition, it's described that they would offer candles so that people can see where the Buddha is. Yeah. I remember one Chinese venerable, he said, 演说演说，要演还要说嘛，只是说呢就只是听而已哦，演说嘛。Yeah, so the Buddha's expression, so it's a whole, in a way, multimedia sensory experience. The next one that has strong significance would be flowers. Yeah. So when we offer flowers, we reflect on how the flowers today at this moment is beautiful, colorful, and blooming. But in due time, it will wither and fall. In the same way, this body, while we are still young, healthy, and alive, this body has the same nature to wither and fall. For one, um, about the very mortality of our existence, you know. Um, so there are a few websites that aggregate the COVID-19 situation across the whole world. And initially, when we are still like you know, where China's number is at 81,000 and is like the most severe. Um, every single mention of death counts. You know, when Singapore had its first fatality, it was like wow.
Yeah.
Then and then over the next few weeks, we start to see more and more, and just recently, the global number crossed 3 million. Right? US crossed 1 million, and I think this has an impact on people across the board. So I think that one of the key takeaway is that um, perhaps we shouldn't have to wait for a disaster, a pandemic like COVID-19 to think about what is essential. Yeah, we shouldn't need so much death for us to think about that, and not just about essentials in terms of our life. And there's so many layers here, right? Um, because it's also about how we live our life as a society. Yeah, you know, the whole crazy push for just material growth. Yeah, and now when all these services are cut down, we are still alive, right? Sometimes I think we are too busy, and in the midst of all the buzz in our life, we forget not just about the essentials, but about caring for others. So you cut off a lot of other things, and then we take a step back and we look, and then this part of our heart, yeah, becomes rekindled. So I think this is another takeaway. I don't dare to say takeaway for everybody, but at least for me, it is heartening to see the kindness pouring forth, the compassion. Yeah. So I think again, uh, we need to be in touch with this part of ourselves, yeah, to care for others. The last part, the last takeaway perhaps is that um, humanity has gone through a lot of disaster, a lot of calamities. Prior to this, there was the Spanish flu, there was the Black Plague. There were so many things that humanity gone through. Um, we are living in challenging times, and in some ways, very surreal times. You know, but I remember in secondary school we learned about World War I, World War II. I mean, we see the figures, number of like so many zeros. You know, how many people died, and we learn about the all those disaster, pandemic, and so on. And now we are living through one. Yeah. Uh, we don't have a choice to as to whether we want the pandemic. We didn't choose to enter into the pandemic, but perhaps we can choose how we want to live it. Yeah. That we enter into this phase of pandemic in a confused state. Perhaps we can leave the pandemic more enlightened, kinder, with more compassion, and to remember this lesson.
We hope you have enjoyed the sharing by Vulnerable Chuan. I find it very enlightening and moving. As part of our community involvement program, ION's Care Singapore actively support social enterprises and communities. Vulnerable Chuan conduct regular Dharma class and retreats. When we are feeling uncomfortable due to many changes and sacrifices that we have to endure during COVID-19, we'd like to encourage you to attend one of the Vulnerable Chuan talks. He covers different topics, one of them may interest you. We hope his talk will bring you inner peace and a more positive outlook. Vulnerable Chuan's teaching to focus on important things in life with compassion and gratitude. From all of us at IOS Care Singapore, I wish everyone happy Vesak Day.
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 南无小在因所